In this video, we are looking at, are these Maclan Drift Performance ESC motor and battery really worth all the hype? We've seen a lot of folks going into competitions, coming out with wins on these. I'm going to be installing them in my team associated DC10, giving it tune, looking at tuning the ESC, looking at how the car performs with this combo in it. Is it really that good? Is the hype real? That's what we're looking to find out. If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Troy. This is RoadsideRC. You'll tend to find me bashing or crawling or drifting or racing, plus doing product review videos and how-tos. Let's get started by getting these out of the box and seeing all the parts. In order to test this, I decided to go 100% no excuses. We even got the batteries. Maclan offers a fancy Drift Performance 4400 milliamp hour 2S LiPo, super shorty, super ultra low center of gravity version. Comes with some 5mm bullet connectors and a balance wire if you want to if you want to be able to wire in your whole charging situation. But I'm not going to. I'm just going to use these 5mm bullets on the ESC itself. Is flippable, so it is 5mm on both sides. I tend to use my batteries in the same way in every car, so I'm gonna have to just look at how I want it oriented and then make sure I am using it the proper way and plugging the other side. Total weight comes in at 154 grams. That's good. It's not the best. I think best low center of gravity batteries, small super batteries that I've seen have been in like the 130s, 140s, but honestly 150 is a pretty lightweight overall battery. Note that it is high voltage capable if you care, if you do want to charge things like that. I typically don't. I typically buy the lithium high voltage batteries because they typically are the ones with the higher C rating, and then I just use them like normal LiPos. Up next is the super fancy ESC. Comes in this nice little box package here. A cable for USB programming. Does come with its fan, which is very nice. You have the ESC itself. I went with blue. I went with team blue here. Will match the team associated, very nice. Yep, fan has the holes right there where you can bolt it right on the top. You have, again, the USB-C for the programming. Capacitor is pre-wired in. Wires are pre-soldered to the ESC, but clearly over here on this side, we are going to need to put the 5mm bullets for the battery, plus the obviously soldering it onto the motor itself. And here we actually have, you have a additional power switch here. Of course, it does come with a balance port on it, and we have a fan port here in the back. They offer this in a variety of colors. I think 3 or so different colors. I think there's a purple and a red as well, but I thought the blue would kind of be fun. Don't know if it really shows up very much there on camera or not, but it's nice. Nice looking ESC, relatively small footprint. Should have plenty of power for anything in the drift world that we need. Before somebody yells at me, yes, QR code gets you to the online manual. No physical manual, but you do have a QR code for that online one. Last but not least is the motor itself. Comes with a couple little plug ends there and a sensor wire. It's not very long, so I hope the motor and the ESC are really close to each other. For generous, we'll say 100mm, maybe 95 to 100mm sensor wire. So I hope wherever you mount it, your ESC and motor are close together. But the motor itself is honestly like pretty much a work of art. That looks gorgeous right there. Love the can, love the cuts in it with the blue highlights everywhere. 2 screws, adjustable timing, minimum timing out of the box is 20 degrees, goes up to 60. And then you'll notice there's a sensor port, but look at that. That's why we need these little plugs right here, is because that's how you plug your motor into your ESC. Isn't that kind of wild? So we're used to seeing them up on the side right here, and you can kind of wire it around. This just goes straight into the end of the motor. Unique. I've never seen anything like that. Don't know if there's actually really any advantage to it or not. And then little built-in internal fan right here. So I don't know if you can see that in there through the camera. But the rotor actually has a fan on it there, so as it spins, it will be help to cool the motor off. So we probably don't even need a fan for the motor. So cool. Motor, sensor wire, got all the plugs that we need to solder on, got the ESC, got the motor. Only one last thing, you need an ability to tune it. So Maclan does offer this USB tuner. It has an app, already downloaded the app. So I get the app in this, and we're going to be able to tune this whole thing up. Now, of course, next up is to install this. I am going to just skip through that. I will give you a couple highlights, but if you've ever installed an ESC or motor before, it should be the same. Sure looks good on there. I will give them that. Obviously bolted the motor in. Orienting the ESC just right gives me enough room for that sensor cable, plus a little spot up here to put the capacitor. I have the power switch plugged in, but I don't have it mounted yet. I think if it's kind of a constant on, as soon as you plug it in, it just turns on. I may want to just do away with the power plug. So I'm going to leave it dangling for right now. Obviously the next step is soldering, and you got to pay attention to the order, which I clearly covered up with the capacitor. But it's A, then it is the negative wire, then it's B, then it's the positive wire, then it's C. And so we're going to take these, we're going to end up cutting them the length that they need to be. So we'll come over here, we will snip the right length, pull it back, solder on the little ends that they need, and again use the 5mm bullet plugs for the battery wire, seeing how long it needs to be to reach over here to the battery. We are all wired up and assembled, batteries in, bullet plugs in the batteries are in. Still need to do the shrink wrapping up here, and depending on if we need to move anything, we'll end up cleaning up the wiring a little bit differently, but honestly it looks pretty good on there. It looks like everything's pretty much ready to go. So I have the controller on. First thing up is we're going to hit the power and just see what happens. Alright, we do get power. Everything appears to turn on. We get a couple beeps and everything, but that's because of course the car has not been calibrated to the controller, so we do need to do that. So we are going to hold full reverse with the controller on, turn it on. We have a yellow blinking down here, which means, okay, then we're going to go to full throttle, blue blinking until it beeps. Then we're going to go to neutral. Alright, I don't know if you can hear all that blinking and beeping over the fan, because it turns out the fan's really loud, but we were able to go through that calibration process. And we do have forward, brake, and reverse, so we are in pretty good shape so far. Of course, we're going to want to now plug in the USB programmer and see how it looks. We'll go plugged in, just followed the on-screen prompts related to connection. Got in, it connected rather effortlessly actually, and it's now doing a firmware update. With that done, we're now able to go back in here to the app. You have connections here, that's where we did connecting to the programmer, or the programming itself, data logging, the manual firmware update, and settings. So of course what we're going to look at is programming. When it pulls up, we have some different preloads in here. A Drift Expert, Drift Pro, Drift 13.5 turn, and then 4, 5, 6. And so these are different things to load in. It was on Drift Expert out of the factory, and the only thing that I noticed, we have general settings and protection and throttle and brake. And under advanced timing, the only thing I noticed, 20 degrees on the motor plus 10 degrees boost, starting at a very low throttle RPM and low RPM. Turbo hits at 98% throttle, 30 degrees of turbo, and I just increased the slew rate. It has a 23 degrees per 0.01 second. So that's the only thing that I changed. So we're going to get it out. It's in that Drift Expert. You can load in Drift Pro. You can load in some of these and see what the different settings are that it has. So we're going to get back out of it. We need to drive it before we start doing anything else with it. All right, first drive with this Maclan setup. This is in that Pro Expert mode with just that a little bit faster slew rate on the turbo. Honestly, the fan's a little bit noisier than the turbo sounds are, even with that much turbo kicked in. Overall, ESC's really smooth. No questions, easy to drive. Obviously, that's just a very basic test here in my garage. I'd say I'm surprised that turbo doesn't feel stronger. It's probably just something we can adjust total timing. Doesn't feel very like, it doesn't feel like it's really kicking. You know, you can get some of the hobby wing setups and all that. I feel like it really hits hard. But honestly, it works really well. Nice and smooth throttle inputs. It makes it look easy, I'd say that's for sure. Yeah, so let's look through some of the other settings that we have in here. So you can set the BEC voltage, forward power, reverse mode, stop then reverse, or double tap then reverse. That's interesting. Or no reverse whatsoever. I'm going to leave it as just stop then reverse. I don't think we need to really change anything in the general settings. Battery cutoff 6.4 volts. I think I'm going to bump that up a little bit just for safety. That's 3.5 volts per cell right there. That'll be okay. Has a motor temp and ESC temp cut. That's nice. Throttle punch is all the way at 135. Whoa, it goes all the way down to 1. Goes up to 150. That's interesting. I have no concerns with it yet, so we're going to just leave it as that. You can actually set a throttle curve on here, but the problem is I don't know what it means by plus 50 or minus 50. I've seen that used interchangeably. Some is, I think it's a negative that typically you want, but I'm gonna not mess with it. I guess if I'm gonna do a throttle curve, I may do it in the controller where I can visibly see it. You can see smoothing values, deadband, all of that. I did have one issue after the first programming. When I fired it back up the second time, it wanted to slowly creep. I may end up needing to increase that deadband settings. Brake strength 100, pulse width, linear again on it, drag brake at 0, all of this stuff I'm very happy with. Advanced timing settings, again, 10 degrees of boost, shifted over 34,500 RPM. Turbo position, turbo hits at 98% throttle. We're having 30 degrees at 23 degrees at 0.1 second, and it hits instantly. There's no delay. There's also a rev limiter in here that you can enable, and then you can set it to trigger at different things. Yeah, no. So far, everything that I've ever seen as far as a rev limiter goes is silly and not worth doing. Just for giggles, I'm going to bump up the turbo to 40 instead of 30. Just for giggles, we'll see what happens. So I'd say overall, what's interesting here, very easy user interface. Settings are very easy to use. The Bluetooth works well. There's nothing in here that goes super wow though, and I think that's the really interesting part. It does have a throttle pulse width all the way up to 56,000. That's fine. I've done testing before where I think once you get past a certain number, I don't know if it's 24 or something like that, it's really hard to tell the difference. So I think this is a quality ESC, but is it really giving us something that we can't get with some of the other options that are out there on the market? Maybe, maybe not. It does seem like it's a good one, but I don't know if it's necessarily anything special or different. I think now's a good time to stop and talk about the price of this real quick. The motor plus the ESC together is like $330. I forget how much the little dongle, ESC programming dongle is. On top of that, that's some additional amount. You know, when you look at it, at first $330 for this combo seems a little steep. But then, you know, the go-to combo that a whole bunch of people use is that Hobby Wing XD10 ESC plus D10 motor. The Hobby Wing is only about $20 cheaper than this. So if you're gonna go fancy stuff, and you don't want to play that like AccuVance money or something along that lines, then really the Hobby Wing has been that middle of the road go-to. And when I first saw this Maclan setup, I thought it was a little more pricey than it is really. 20 bucks more than the Hobby Wing. I think probably I would just buy the Hobby Wing. But if you want to be fancy, if you want to be different than everybody else that's at the drift track, for like 20 bucks more, maybe this gives you a color, maybe you like the design of it, the user interface is really easy, so is the Hobbywings. Power levels are similar, tuning programs are similar, with the Hobbywing maybe giving you just a couple more programming options that you probably really don't need. So at the end of the day, it's not as expensive as some of the high-end AccuVant stuff that you don't really need 99% of the folks. This, priced right there near the Hobbywing. You can pick your choice of whether you like this or the Hobbywing better. I'll leave a link to both of them down in the video description. That way you can click on each and see which one you think you like better. I think it works good. I think the price is reasonable in the RC drift world. There's certainly things that I typically would suggest for folks that are on more of a budget, and I'll leave a link to that down below, like the XR10 stock spec. It's a really good ESC. Has, again, 70% of the programming options that this does for even a little bit less money. So I hope this video was useful for you. If you are looking for an RC Drift ESC and motor for your car, this is a pretty dang solid choice, this Maclan setup. Again, I'll have it plus the Hobbywing plus some other options like that down in the video description so you can compare and contrast and see which one you think you want to buy. If you have any questions about this, please leave them down in the comments section. And if you want to see any other cool things, drift tech stuff that I have done, there'll be a playlist popping up over here to your right here at the end of the video. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.